Okay, let's get started this morning. Thanks for joining, everyone. We're going to be working into some runner's rehab today. So I know a lot of people have taken up jogging during lockdown. A lot of people have never done it before. I wasn't a particularly proficient runner before this, but I've been finding these furlough times of going out in the morning and getting some fresh air and seeing the world have been hugely beneficial to my mental capacity. I'm also feeling physically stronger. I'm really enjoying the more cardiovascular aspect of the running, which I don't normally get with my yoga and Pilates. But I am finding that my legs are getting quite stiff, my back is getting a little bit stiff, and my hips are starting to feel it a little bit. So working into some gentle runners stretches today will hopefully be beneficial to all of us who've taken up a bit more cardio over this last few weeks. So we're going to sit up nice and tall, gently closing your eyes, and taking a few deep breaths. We're not going to stay in a seated position for too long. We're just using it as an opportunity to connect the mind, the body, and the breath. Starting to activate lightly into Ujjayi. Very soft and gentle sighing on the inhale and exhale. And then when you feel ready to, you're going to come over into a child's pose. So if you'd like to keep your eyes closed, it's quite nice. Helps to internalize the sensations that you're feeling, connecting to your proprioception, and then slowly lowering your forehead down to the floor in your child's pose. And you can choose whether knees are apart or together. But we're going to keep the hands out in front of us. And as you breathe here, you're going to reach the forehead towards the floor and the tailbone towards the toes. So there is a gentle activation across the spine, reaching it long. And then on your inhale breath, walking both arms over to the right edge of your mat. And you can lightly hold onto the right wrist if that feels comfortable. Inhale back to the center and over to the other side. Breathing down the side of the rib cage, stretching out through the lats. Let's inhale to the center. And then bending your elbows and bringing the palms together. Let your head drop down and bring your thumbs to the back of your spine. Release the hands back down to the floor and then inhale to lift up into a tabletop. Adjusting your alignment, bringing hands under shoulders, knees under hips, and then flowing through a few rounds of cow pose. And here it can be quite nice again to keep the eyes closed. And just feel into the movements of the body and the breath. So that as you start your inhale, you start the movement, and you only finish the movement right at the end of the breath. And then inhale, coming into neutral spine. You're going to tuck the toes, lifting the hips up and back. And coming into a bent legged downward facing dog. Let's turn the head lightly underneath the arms from one side to the other. And then sinking one heel to the floor and the other heel to the floor. Breathing into this movement, and then start to allow the spine to twist from side to side. So as you bend one knee, twist away, and then bend the other knee and twist away. And then sinking both heels down in towards the mat. You're going to walk your hands back towards the toes. Bend your knees deeply, holding onto opposite elbows, and gently sway the torso from one side to the other. Maybe you want to straighten the one leg a little bit as you lean away from it. And then turning the chest right around to the side of the calf muscles. Getting a deep stretch across the hips, softening the hamstrings, gently flowing from side to side. And then coming to the center, release the hands, bend your knees deeply, and rolling up. Press firmly into the feet to feel the lift. Tucking chin to chest until you're all the way to standing. Take the hands overhead. Interlocking fingers, turning the palms to face up. And then leaning over to the right. Looking underneath the left arm. Inhale to center, leaning over to the left. Looking underneath the right arm. Inhaling to the center, releasing the hands down. Bend your knees, tuck your chin to your chest, and slowly roll back to the mat. Keep the knees bent, leading from your head. Feel the traction in your spine as you release. Hands to the mat, and then walking yourself forward into plank pose. Holding into your plank as you float into the hands, and then curl the knees down to the floor. You're going to inhale, cow pose. Exhale, cat pose. And then sliding into downward facing dog. Looking between the hands, let's walk up to the front of the mat. Lifting the chest. Place the weight lightly onto the front of the feet. Hands are very welcome to come to the shins. As you exhale, you're going to forward fold, bringing hands behind the ankles or to the mat. You're going to undulate the spine. Inhale, lifting up halfway. And then exhale to undulate back down to the mat. Bend your knees deeply, rolling up. Feel as though you're lifting from the shoulders, like there's a coat hanger across the shoulder blades, pulling you up from that space. Let's inhale, taking the hands up to the sky. Interlocking fingers as you point through the forefinger and thumb. And then again, leaning over to the right. Reach your fingers away from your heel. Reach your heel away from your fingers. Inhale back to center and switching over to the other side. Inhaling to center. Exhale to forward fold all the way down to the mat. We're using a straight back this time. Inhale, lifting halfway up into a flat back. And then exhale to forward fold. Inhale, stepping your right leg back into lunge. And then sink the hips low as you lift your chest high. Become very light into the fingertips, engage into the back quad a little bit more. And then dropping the back knee down to the mat. Let's inhale up onto the front knee. And then gently push your knee away as you open up through the heart. Sliding the hips down towards the earth. And this is working into your right hip flexor and into the psoas muscle a little bit. And these are very, very tight muscles when we do a lot of cardio. They are the muscles that lift the knee up. On the exhale breath, bring your hands down to the inside of the foot and then heel toe the leg open a bit wider. You're going to walk your hands down in front of you, relaxing your neck. Maybe slide the hips a little bit deeper if you have the space. We're not lowering down to the elbows at this point. Taking it gently, taking it slowly. On the inhale, bring your hands back up underneath the shoulders and you're going to lift the back leg off the floor, squeezing into that back knee. So now we're in a wide lunge. Take the left hand up to the sky into a twist. And the more you work the back thigh, the more activation you're going to feel into the psoas and the hip joint. Let's exhale, bring the hand back down to the inside of the foot, and now you just step your foot back into plank, engaging into the lower belly. And then exhale to drop the knees to the mat. Let's inhale, cow pose. Exhale, cat. Keep your spine rounding, point your toes so the feet are flat, and then lift the knees off the floor. From here, release the knees back down, tuck toes, and lifting up and back, downward facing dog. Engage into the legs, and turn the inner thighs slightly outwardly. Heels hiding behind the middle toes. Gaze in between the hands. Let's take little steps, walking up to the front of the mat. Flat back. And exhale to forward fold. Inhale, flat back. And exhale to forward fold. Inhale, take the hands all the way up to the sky with a straight back this time. Interlocking fingers above you, pointing forefinger and thumb. And then inhale up onto the tips of the toes. Lifting your heels as high as you can. Working into your ankle stabilizers and the calf muscles. Again, these are muscles that work really hard when we are running or cycling. And then exhale the heels down as you forward fold to the mat. Inhale to lift halfway up, and then stepping the left leg back into lunge. I'm going to simply hold this pose. Sinking the hips a little bit lower. Very light onto the fingers, open up through the chest. And then dropping the back knee down to the floor, walking the hands to the front thigh. Keep sliding the hips a little bit further forward. Your back foot can point or tuck, whatever feels better for your knee. Start to open up the front body away from the thigh. Broadening the chest and the throat. And then let's exhale the hands to the inside of the foot. Heel toe your foot a little bit wider. And then walking the hands forward into a lizard lunge. Keeping it easy at this point. Starting to work more into the front glutes and piriformis. And then walking the hands back in underneath the shoulders. Going to tuck the back toe and lift the back knee off the mat. Keeping the left hand down and floating the right hand up. Breathe into the space, find the activation and the softness. Let's release the hand back down to the floor and then stepping yourself into plank pose. Lift into lower belly muscles. Let's exhale the knees to the mat. Inhale, cow pose. Exhale, cat. Point the toes. Lift the knees off the floor. Round your back, round your glutes. Drop the knees back down and then lifting into downward facing dog. Taking a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Stay in your down dog, step your feet together and start to push the heels towards the earth. So this closer alignment, you should feel more activation into the back of the legs. Lift the knees and reach the heels down. Whether they touch or not is not important, as long as you have that activation. At the same time, keep working your chest further towards the thighs. Let's inhale the right leg to lift. Keep your hips square to begin. And then inhale to lift the leg as high as you can. Keep the shoulders square, but start to open your hip, bringing the toes further and further behind you. Bending into the top leg to come into a scorpion pose, and feeling the lovely stretch across the quads, the hip flexors, and the psoas muscle. And then you're going to hug your knee to the outer edge of your right foot, placing the foot into a wide lunge. Drop the back knee down to the mat and coming into a second round of lizard lunge, this time going a little bit lower. You can bring your elbows to the floor. If your elbows don't comfortably touch the floor, then stay on the hands and walk your hands forward. Be mindful of what's happening into your front ankle. Maybe turn the toes a bit wider if that feels that you're going to release the ankle joint. Breathing deeply into the space. Now working into the adductors a little bit more, the inner thighs, and deeper into the hip joint. Let's inhale the hands back up, underneath the shoulders. You're going to keep your left hand on the floor, right hand presses your leg, and you push your knee away as you twist your chest up to the sky. You may even want to come onto the knife edge of the baby toe of your front foot. You can let the hips sink as you open your chest in response. Let's draw the hands back down to the mat. Lift your back knee off the floor, so into the wide lunge, breathing into the space. You're going to step your back foot forward into a squat, into Malasana. If your heels don't touch the floor, that's okay. Just try and anchor down as best you can. And then push the knees apart as you open up through the chest and tuck the tailbone down. Again, this is a very good releasing pose for hips and thighs, adductor muscles, and also really good for the lower back. Let's release the hands to the floor. We're going to come into a forward fold, hips to the sky, heel toe the feet, hip distance wide, lift the chest into flat back. Tip the weight onto the front of your feet, feeling as though you could slide a piece of paper underneath your heels. Let's exhale to forward fold, flicking the tailbone to the sky as you reach your head to the earth. Lifting halfway up, flat back. Reach head and hips away from one another, lengthening the neck. Let's fold down a second time. And then lifting all the way up to the sky. Interlocking fingers above you, pointing forefinger and thumb. On the inhale, floating up onto the toes. And again, try not to let the heels come together at this point. You want to keep this square heel, to square the ankle, to square the hips. And now bringing more intensity into these ankle stabilizers. You can bring the hands together at the heart and slowly start to bend your knees. Lift your heels. And you go really slowly. So we're not aiming to sit into the heels, but rather to come into a floating chair pose, where the heels are high off the mat, the hips are lowering. Slowly lift those heels even more, and then hands down, heels down, forward fold. Let's inhale halfway up, flat back. And then exhale, stepping the left leg into lunge. On the inhale breath, you're going to step yourself back into downward facing dog. Staying in your down dog, step your feet together or as close together as you can manage. Again, sink the heels to the earth as you flick the tailbone to the sky. You may feel this is more intense into the shoulders and you'll need to adjust the heels a bit wider if you're feeling intensity here. We're going to float the left leg off the floor, keeping the hips square to begin. Reach your heel as far back as you can, and then start to open the hip. Keep the shoulders square and lifting your leg high up to the sky. Let's start to bend into that knee, drawing the heel towards the glute and still rotating to bring the hip open to the left side. You're going to step the top foot to the outer edge of your left hand, so you're in a wide lunge. And then dropping the back knee down to the mat, coming into a slightly deeper version of your lizard lunge. So just as far as works for you. You can walk your hands forward or drop the elbows to the earth. Notice the difference between the two sides. Work into what this side needs, maybe more release, maybe more activation. And then walking your hands back up again. Hands stay underneath the shoulders. Take the left hand to the inside of your thigh and then push your knee away, coming onto the baby toe side of that front foot. You can let the hips drop down a bit deeper, and then you turn your chest up towards the sky. Let's inhale to the center, taking the back knee off the mat, and we're going to step the foot forward into Malasana. So make whatever adjustments you need to find a comfortable space in your Malasana. Opening up the heart, opening up the hips. And now, depending on how you're feeling in your Malasana pose, we're going to take this into a very gentle twist. So to begin, you're going to bring the right hand to the floor and the left arm to the sky. If that shoulder can't lift up comfortably, bring the hand onto the lower back and open up through the chest. Keep pressing your upper arm against your knee to help open the knees a little bit wider. If you find that your shoulders are quite open and you can take this into a bind behind the back, that is an option. But if that's not available to you today, just choose one of the other two arm alignments. Let's bring the hands together at the heart center again, at the middle of the mat, and then over to the other side. So reaching the left hand out, the right arm up. Make whatever adjustment you need to be able to hold this pose. And if you'd like to take the bind, you can interlock the fingers behind the back. Try to sit into the feet evenly and into the heels and the front of the feet evenly, the inner and outer arches evenly. Let's release the hands together at the heart again. And then making our way into forward fold. Hands down as you lift your hips up, heel toe the feet, hip distance wide. Lengthen the spine into your flat back. And then exhale to forward fold. Let's inhale, take the hands all the way up to the sky. Interlocking fingers above you, pointing forefinger and thumb. And then bringing the hands together at the heart. Let's lift up onto the toes. Press the big toe into the floor as much as the baby toe. And again, we're going to work into your ankle stabilizers now by bending the knees, lifting the heels, lowering the hips very slowly. And this time you're going to come all the way down to the heels. So you're sitting into your heels. You can bring your hands to the floor if that feels more appropriate for you. If you'd like to go a bit deeper, you can start to bring the heels together and open the knees wide, similar to the squat we just did, but with a completely different foot alignment. And if you'd like to go even further still, you can see the feet are apart here, you can maybe bring the balls of the foot together, bring the heels together, opening the knees out wide. Hands can come to the mat or to the heart. And this is a challenging pose. This is technically not a beginner's posture, but it's a really nice one to work into the feet, stretching these toes, stretching into the Achilles tendon, really working the stabilizers. And then it's release down and step yourself back into downward facing dog. On the inhale breath, take your right leg to the sky, reaching your foot up and back as high as you can, and then step the foot in between the hands into lunge. Let's drop the back knee down to the mat, and then lifting onto the fingertips. Sink your hips a little bit lower, and then walk the hands just slightly towards your back leg. As you inhale, straighten your front leg into Ardha Hanumanasana. Let's inhale to re-bend the front knee, lift open through the heart, coming onto fingertips. And then exhale to straighten the front leg, and this time I'm going to curl your forehead down towards your shin. On the inhale, floating forward, open the heart, and this time take the hands up into crescent lunge. If you can keep the fingers off the floor, that's great. We're going to reach the hand back as you straighten your front leg. Let's inhale, float the hands back up to the sky. Crescent lunge. And then bring the hands down to the mat, lifting your back knee off the floor. Keep the legs as wide as they are now. Straighten your front leg. So in a very wide pyramid pose. Square the hips, reach your head forward, anchor down into the big toe. We're now going to hop the back foot in, so that we're about 1 meter away between the feet. Lifting up onto the fingers, square your hips intensely. If you have the space, you can forward fold over your front shin. If you don't have the space, stay in the flat back. Square your hips and feel the intensity into your hamstring here. On your inhale breath, lifting halfway up. So you're coming back onto those fingertips. You're going to keep your left finger in line with your back toes and take the right hand to the sky. Remember, you can bring the elbow, bend your elbow with a hand to the hip. And I'll try not to lean your chest to the right side, but keep your head reaching forward and then rotate around the center line to lift that heart open. Squeeze the legs, squeeze the torso, and then releasing back down. You're going to step yourself back into downward facing dog. And take a moment here to just feel the difference between the left and right legs. Let's inhale to take the left leg to the sky. And then stepping the foot between the hands into lunge as you slowly lower the back knee down. Keeping the fingertips very lightly on the floor, start to open up the heart. And then walk the hands back towards you a little bit as you now straighten the leg. Let's inhale forward, opening up the heart, coming onto the tips of the fingers, feeling as though you could just lightly brush the fingers along the floor. And then straightening into the front leg as you now curl your forehead down towards your shin. On the next inhale, we're going to bend into that front leg and float the hands to the sky, lifting arms into crescent lunge. A bit more intensity now. And we're going to sweep these hands back as you straighten the front leg into Ardha Hanumanasana. Use your core to balance. Let's inhale, float the hands back up to the sky. Working into Ardha Hanumanasana one last time, floating back. Let's inhale, lifting the hands to the sky, and then releasing back down to the mat. We're going to inhale. What do we do here? Oh, sorry, wide lunge. We're going to lift your back knee off the floor, opening up through the heart, and then straighten into the front leg, coming into a wide pyramid pose. So this is a very gentle variation of the pyramid pose. You've got lots of space to adjust, opening the right hip slightly forward, reach the head forward, and then we're going to hop the back foot in about a meter space distance. Lift up onto the fingertips as you square the hips even more. Squeeze your inner thighs like they're a pair of scissors. And then if you have the space, you can fold down over your front shin. Remember to keep the neck long and the back leg active. Let's inhale to come back up onto the fingertips. Keep the right hand in line with the front foot and the back foot, making a little triangle, and then taking the left arm up. Remember to square the hips, reach your head forward. So we're not trying to look behind your hip, but rather extend your head forward and then rotate the rib cage. Squeeze your back leg a little bit more. And let's exhale to bring both hands back down, stepping your way into downward facing dog. Taking a deep breath in and a deep breath out. On the inhale, taking the right leg to the sky, and then bring your knee forward into pigeon pose. So right knee to the outer edge of the right wrist. Slide your back foot a little bit further back. Hips are square to the center line, and then you walk your fingertips up towards you. Start to open up through the heart, so you're lifting into the front line of the body. And then releasing your elbows down to the floor. If you'd like to go a bit deeper, you can lower your hands underneath your forehead. And if you'd like to go deeper still, you can lower your forehead to the floor and extend your fingers in front of you. Stop at any point that works for your body. If you want to intensify the stretch into your front glute, move your front foot a bit further towards the front of your mat. If you want to lessen the intensity, bring your front foot closer to your hip. From here, let's lift the chest back up, coming onto the hands. And now you're going to sit into your front hip. And your back leg is now going to bend to meet the front foot. So the arch of the foot is on the inner thigh. We're lifting up nice and tall. Inhale. And now you're going to twist to your right. Bringing the left hand to the outer thigh. The right hand can come lightly behind you. And gently opening the chest to the right side. Let's inhale to face to the center, and now your outer leg is going to lift into you, rotating the hip joint and then straightening the leg out to the side. So we're sitting into our wide-legged Janu Sirsasana. Taking this into a lateral stretch, the left elbow coming towards the inside of the left leg as the right hand reaches over towards your big toes. Counting this as a rotating pose first. So twist the ribcage open. And then only if you have space will you take it into a deeper fold. If you don't have the space, hold into the twist. And eventually the space will come. Let's inhale to lift back up to center. And now opening both feet out into a wide V shape. Lift your toes up so they're lifting to the sky, and the feet are pressing against an imaginary surface. Lift your hips, stick your bum out, and then sit back down again, so you're creating a pelvic tilt, an external pelvic tilt here. Let's slowly start to walk the hands forward. Making sure that your spine is elongating and active. Avoid rounding into the back. And connect your breath. Every inhale is going to lengthen you, and every exhale is going to soften. On your inhale, breath coming back up to center. Holding underneath the thighs, you're going to bring your right ankle in front of your left. And now, depending on the intensity of how your hips are feeling here, you have two options. Either you're going to stay into your cross-leg position and then forward fold, bringing elbows towards the floor. They don't necessarily have to touch. Or if you've got a bit more space and you'd like to go for a bit of a more intense variation, you're going to come into fire log pose. So here, the heels are underneath the knees and the shins run parallel to one another. So you can run your hand along both shins evenly. If you have very tight hips, this knee is going to be way up in the air. That's fine. Just relax it as best you can. And again, depending on how tight you feel like you want to move into the space today, you can just simply sit and breathe, or you can start to lean forward a little bit, or you can bring your elbows onto that top leg. And again, this is going to intensify a bit more. If you have a lot of space, you may be able to bring the elbows to the floor, but that really is quite intense. And we want to be able to hold here for a good 5 breaths. And then slowly lifting back up. Let's do one more hip stretch on this side before we change to the other side. By now sliding the knees on top of one another with the feet facing behind you, coming into Go Mukha Asana. Let's lift up nice and tall, and we're going to take us into a twisted version to begin. So you're now going to twist towards your top thigh. And then inhaling to the center, you're going to bring your left hand down, and you're now going to lean over away from your top thigh. So you're reaching in the opposite direction of the top leg. If your elbow doesn't touch the floor, just bend your elbow into your waist. And then we're switching it over to the other side, so coming into the lateral stretch, moving towards your top leg. And for most people, this will feel the most intense, this moving towards the top leg. This is deeply stretching into the muscles that are directly associated with our running and cycling. And then coming back up to center. You're going to come over into a downward facing dog. So you can either just unwrap the legs and step yourself back, or if you'd like to play with a jumping mechanism, you're going to roll over, lifting onto the tops of the feet, and then from there you can either lightly step, or you can hop yourself back into a downward facing dog. Let's take a few breaths in your down dog. And then we'll take the left leg to the sky and step the left knee forward for pigeon pose, sliding the back foot a little bit further back, coming into our upright Kapatanasana to begin, creating space in the front body. The back leg is still active. And then when you feel ready to do so, you can lower onto the elbows. Perhaps you want to stay here. Perhaps you want to come down onto the back of the hands. Or maybe you want to come down onto your chest. Remembering you can adjust the intensity of this pose by walking the foot forward or walking the foot back. Also slide your back foot a little bit further back to create a light intensity increase. And then inhale, coming back up to center. Sit into your front hip and then bend your back knee to meet the front foot. So we're sitting into our deer pose here. On your inhale breath, you're going to exhale to twist. So you're twisting away from the front thigh. Allow the open chest anchor down through the opposite hip. Inhale to center. The outer leg is now going to extend to the side into wide leg Janu Sirsasana. And then floating the top arm over the ear as you press your bottom arm against your leg to open. So you can gaze underneath the top arm or down at your thigh, depending on what feels better for your neck. You want the stretch to be felt along the outer edge of the rib cage and maybe even down into the side of the lower back. Let's inhale, coming back into center, and then bringing the soles of the feet together. Interlock your fingers into your Baddha Konasana. You can draw the heels closer in or further out. Lift open through the heart, press the knees to the earth, and then gently leaning forward. And again, this is another lovely deep targeted stretch to those inner thigh muscles, helping with the external rotators of the hips, but also lengthening into the lower back. For many people, this can be aggravating into lower back issues, especially if you have SI joint issues, so please be mindful of how deep you go in this pose. And then let's inhale back up to center. We're going to cross the ankles now, this time bringing the left ankle in front. And if you'd like to, you can come into your simple cross-legged forward fold. Or if you'd like to go a little bit deeper, we'll take this into the fire log pose. So in your fire log pose, the bottom heel must be underneath the knee. If your bottom heel is way in towards your body, you're not going to get nearly the amount of benefit that you will by bringing it forward. So finding your space here, you can just simply hold. Or if you'd like to, you can start to lean forward a little bit. Maybe resting the elbows to the shin. Connect to your ujjayi. Connect the body and the breath. Relaxing your hips with your exhale. Clearing the mind, the chatter with your inhale. Let's inhale back up to center, coming into Gomukha Asana now by crossing the knees and bringing the soles of the feet behind you. Opening up through the heart, we're going to twist. So we're twisting away from the front leg. And then inhale to the center, coming into your side lunge by bringing the right elbow down and reaching over through the left hand. So the lateral stretch away from the front thigh. And then back up to center and over to the other side, and now stretching towards that inner thigh. You may even be able to connect in to the ITB band along the outer edge of your bottom thigh. And then inhaling back up to center. This time we're going to straighten the legs in front of you. And you can choose to bend your knees or keep the legs straight as you very slowly roll onto your back. Lift your pubic bone, breathe into the gentle release, and all the way down. Let's take the knees into the chest. And now you can hold onto the backs of the thighs, onto the calf muscles, or even onto the big toes as you straighten both heels towards the sky. You're going to flatten your lower back against the mat, pressing your lower back nice and firmly against the floor. You're going to straighten the legs as best you can, so adjust your arms to allow the legs to stretch. And you draw the toes towards you as you flatten your back even more. And then again, you can adjust your arms should you need to. You're going to open the legs out, kicking the heels away, flattening into the lower back. And now start to curl the tailbone off the mat. So you're just lifting the lower back. Feel as though you're trying to get the pubic bone up towards the belly button and reach the toes to the floor either side of you. This is quite an intense movement, engaging into core, opening into inner and outer thighs, and then releasing the lower back down again. Draw the knees together. And then making your way into an eagle twist. Wrap the right thigh around the left, opening the arms out to the side, and then exhale to drop the knees to the left. Take a nice big inhale breath. And exhale to sigh. Let your shoulder fall towards the earth. Let your knee fall to the earth in the opposite direction. Feeling everything from the fingertip of the right hand to the knee on the left side, stretching out. Let's inhale back to the center, unwrap the legs, and then switching to the other side. Left leg wrapped around right. Inhale and exhale to drop the knees to the right. You can take a couple of deep sighs here. That helps to release the torso, release the legs. Inhale back to the center, hugging the knees into the chest. And then releasing into Shavasana. Bringing the hands down next to the hips, lengthening into the lower back, softening into the shoulders, slightly tucking chin to chest. Let's take a deep breath in. Hold the breath in, and then sigh the breath out. Stay in that sensation of release and melting and surrender. lengthen your breath. Gently running your thumb over your fingertips, moving your toes, your ankles, your wrists, sliding your feet together as you extend your arms overhead, taking a deep, energizing stretch as you yawn or sigh, bending your knees and rolling onto your side, resting into a fetal position. Taking a moment here. And as you inhale, lifting yourself all the way up into a comfortable seated position. Drawing your hands together at your heart center. And close the class by chanting Om once and Shanti 3 times. Taking a deep breath in. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Raising your hands to your third eye. The light in me sees and honors the light in you. Lowering your hands to your lips, to your heart, to your mat. Bowing forward in recognition of your practice. Blinking eyes open, inhaling to lift.